Wizards Postgame Live.
4 games on the road, trying to close out with a victory with a tough amount of effort to go in tonight. Not enough to get it done. Final score 127-110. Your Wizards fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder in Oklahoma City. Wes Hall, joined with Christy Winter-Scott, will be bringing in Chris Miller, Glenn Consort, and Megan McPeak here momentarily. But Christy, this is one of those games that we talked about it as soon as we started. Like that first quarter, the Wizards scored 17 points. And I said, this is going to be one of those nights.
Right, absolutely. And it started tough for Washington in terms of getting things going. And it started on the defensive end. They didn't have enough resistance in the paint to begin the game. Gave up 62 paint points as a whole for the game. And Washington on the other side just had 52 paint points, but couldn't get their three-point shots to fall. Only 28% from three for Washington after giving up almost 46% of threes for OKC. So when it all is said and done, the grit and fight came forward for Washington. Jordan Goodwin came in and really had a magnificent effort for Washington, but they just didn't have the succinct ability, if you will, of those energy plays and those grit plays that they needed to come out with the win tonight.
And to me, that, you know, obviously you want to get in passing lanes on defense, but on offense, that's where that spark came from.
Absolutely.
My concern is on the defensive side for the Wizards. It just seemed like you could not stop SGA or any of the Thunder guys that wanted to attack and get inside the paint and really put up points. That's why they had 35 in the first quarter.
Absolutely, and that's what I said at the beginning. The resistance of defense in the paint just wasn't there initially, and I think there were some miscommunications on defense as well. But they corrected that. It got better, but they were already in such a hole at the beginning of the game. It's tough to dig out of that. And even when he's guarded very well, there were some tough shots that OKC was making. I mean, they dropped in a ton of threes tonight as well, and they were able to score off of Washington's 20 turnovers. So that was an issue as well. Even though Washington took better care of the ball in the second half, you can't dig yourselves a hole and have those second opportunities off of steals, being able to push. I thought that was like a big issue as well, getting points off their offensive boards. OKC did a tremendous job. I think both teams had 11 offensive rebounds, but OKC really paid off getting those second chance points inside.
Indeed, all 5 scorers for Oklahoma City in double figures, 4 out of the 5 for the Wizards. And you look at the bench points, the Wizards actually outscored Oklahoma City off the bench. I think it was 41, what is it? 41 to 32. Oh, yeah, look at us. 41-31, excuse me. So forgive me again. I want to bring in Chris and Glenn and get their thoughts on tonight, too, because, you know, this is a 4-game trip, as we talked about, and you know, you want to finish on the road as best you can. Glenn, where did you see this one take a left turn for the Wizards, and how do they correct that for Monday?
Well, first of all, it was really the turnovers, to me, was the story tonight, because you look at what the Thunder did defensively. The Thunder really was the aggressor of this game. So they created 20 turnovers that came to 32 points. 32 points, that's a big, big number. Conversely, we talked about who was going to be the aggressor. The Wizards only created 10 turnovers. They only got 9 points off those turnovers. To me, that was the big difference. But give credit where credit is due. The Thunder came out. They were the aggressor on defense right off the bat, to the extent that the Thunder took 98 shots. The Wizards only took 79 shots. It's tough to come back when a team is dictating the pace of the game like the Thunder did.
I think you all guys have said it, and you've been correct. That first 12 minutes really set the tone with this, again, youngest team in the NBA. By the way, missing a lot of their front court help. So thinking Washington had the advantage, they did out-rebound them by 5. But the problem was the pace of play was advantage OKC. There's 2 things I jotted down. We talked about this in the pregame show. OKC is second in the league in points off turnovers. They get about 20 a game. They got 32 tonight. They're third in the league in terms of paint points, getting 55 a game. They had 66 tonight. They just set the tone early, and the reason I thought the Wizards could get back into the game, I like the adjustment by putting Jordan Goodwin in the game. Christy, you talked about that to start the third quarter. It just wasn't enough defense. Wizards went on a 12-0 run with 8 minutes left in the game, and they were down 14. They just could never – they could score. They outscored them 68-59 in the second half, but it's what they did in those first 12 minutes that really set that tone.
Chris, you're absolutely right, and you mentioned Jordan Goodwin. It was one of those things that we said at halftime. It was about energy, and you could see the energy that he infused when he got on the court tonight. Even though he only had 9 points on the board, you could see that he was lighting up every other department on the scoreboard. He had the assist.
What I like about him,
ahead,
what I like about him most is there was a stretch of games where he just didn't play, and he was sitting on the bench, and he never once complained. And as soon as he got that start in the third quarter, Glenn and I were talking about it during the broadcast. What did he do? He got a steal. He got a bucket. He got into the passing lanes. He's doing all the things that Jordan Goodwin normally does when he was getting all that time when Wizards players were out due to injury. And I actually thought it might have even sparked Daniel Gafford, because Gafford didn't start the third quarter, and I thought Gafford got better as the game went on. It just wasn't enough time for the Wizards to make a run, because, look, that OKC team over there, they're
physical,
young, but
they're fearless.
They put 150 on the Celtics, guys. I watched that game on Tuesday night.
With no Shea.
No Shea.
Christy, what do you think about Gaff?
Hey, no, I love Gaff. I mean, he has 5 consecutive games now, guys, where he has scored more than 10 points. And with his insertion into the starting lineup and with his insertion with Kristaps Porzingis in there, I think that his impact has been invaluable. I think defensively, he is all over the place. He's flying around. He's active. He's an energy giver as well. For as much as Jordan Goodwin does that on the perimeter, Daniel Gafford does it inside. I mean, he has power plays. He has momentum plays for Washington. He was 7 of 8 from the floor. He almost had a double-double with those 9 rebounds, but he makes himself available to the basketball. Pick and roll opportunities. He has great hands inside, but more pick and roll opportunities for a player like Daniel Gafford, where he can make slice cuts down from the nail and finish strong at the rim at a high percentage. That's what he does well. Get more of those actions his way.
You know, Christy, I think they're going to look back, and those offensive rebounds killed the Wizards tonight. And there were a couple of times there where Daniel gave up position on those offensive rebounds for them to get those second chance opportunities. But offensively, like you said, he's been really good here of late.
You know, we talked in the open about the Wizards using their length with the 2 big guys as an advantage, especially in a game like this. Well, we didn't see it because the Thunder went small. They pressed all over the place. They sped up the tempo of the game, but that didn't mean the Wizards, you know, couldn't apply that type of defense on the perimeter.
Right.
You know, I thought, and I was saying this during the course of the game, get the ball into KP in the low post, in the low block, or Gaff in the low block. Use that size. We just didn't see it.
Yeah, going back to what Kyle Kuzma said just a couple of games ago, they have to check us too. They have to check us too. So if you have an advantage with size, then go to that size on the offensive side. And I thought Daniel Gafford, 7 of 8 from the floor, I thought he did, but double his opportunities up, and it could be a different story, right? Can he get 16 touches? Can he get 15, 16 touches where they are shots selected by him, where he can get in the paint and score at a high percentage? I just think, you know, the pick and roll opportunities when you have a bigger lineup, when other teams go small, they have to match the size of a Kristaps Porzingis and a Daniel Gafford in there, and I think they could have probably done a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I just think once things got derailed early, it made the Wizards adjustment to what their plan was. It changed the course of everything. Chris and Glenn, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on PostGame Live. We'll see you guys on Monday back in D.C. taking on the New Orleans.
We can come home now?
Yes, you can come home.
Come on.
Come on back. Enjoy your trip. Safe travels, gentlemen. We appreciate it as always.
All right, y'all take care.
Guys.
Christy, we're talking about something that actually I want to dig deeper into.
Yes.
We talk about Porzingis and Gafford. They're 5-1 coming into this game. They're 5-1 together now.
Right.
Obviously, with them both starting today in this loss, they're 5-2. I personally don't want to count this one. And here's why.
Talk to me.
You're getting the 14 and 10. You get a double-double out of Porzingis, and you almost had a double-double out of Gaff. Here's why I don't want to count it.
Okay.
Because of that first quarter. Because they really weren't playing our game. At that point, we're down 35-17 in the first quarter. We're playing OKC's game.
Right.
And it's really a complete diversion from what we originally set out to do. So it's hard for me to grade what they look like, because remember, on the second half, guess who got the start?
Yeah.
Porzingis slid down to the 5. Kuz slid to the 4. You saw Goodwin come in at the 2, and Kispert moved to the 3.
Absolutely. But I think what you said in the pregame show, when you asked me what is it going to be, or should the Wizards slow down the pace of play to try to slow down what OKC wants to do, or try to match that and go at them and push tempo? Now, I don't care who's on the floor in terms of position, in terms of height and whatever else, but pace of play is dictated on defense. Okay, I don't care what 5 players are on the floor. It's dictated by your energy and effort on the defensive end in terms of getting in the passing lanes and creating opportunities. Now, OKC forced 20 turnovers by Washington and scored 32 points off of those. And Washington, they didn't do the same thing. So you can get the pace that you want from your defense, from your glass work, but also in the quarter court, take advantage where you have the advantage inside.
Another place we can say that we pretty much had a unique opportunity. It was at the guards position. I know we talked about Jordan Goodwin getting some quality minutes tonight, but look at the productivity of these 3 right here. Monte Morris, DeLon Wright, and Jordan Goodwin. Points combined for 28 points tonight. You can see the rebounds right there is at 6, but the assist, everybody contributing. The steals, DeLon Wright leading the force, as we talked about in pregame live about deflections and turnovers created on ball defenders. How do you gauge their collective effort tonight, Christy?
Well, it's a 3-headed monster, right? It's a point guard by committee situation with these 3. They came in, this trio was high percentage from the floor. They were great in terms of their defensive aggression. But I think when all is said and done, you have to have that balance. You have to have the balance of those 3 guards who come in and star in their role, and that's what they did tonight. They were all solid in what they bring to the table, and their skill sets prove that. But you also have to have complements to what they are doing on the perimeter on the interior. And I thought that they just didn't sustain that level of production and impact on the inside. Monte Morris got going from the outside, especially in the second half, got the ball moving and got the ball popping, and the off-ball movement is where it is. Pick and roll opportunities is where it is, but you have to have proper spacing, and at times I thought Washington didn't have the opportunities because the spacing was too tight in the paint. Like, you have to have somewhere to work with. If you're doing a 2-man game, you got to have that clear out on the weak side, and then sometimes it was just a little bit too tight up the lane line. But they didn't have opportunities to attack the way they could have because the spacing sometimes was improper.
Indeed, indeed. Great breakdown, Christy. I appreciate that. And again, wanted this to be a victory tonight, but we have to make adjustments and move forward. But right now, I want to go to head coach Wes Unseld Jr. at the post-game podium and his thoughts on tonight's game.
Well, a lot of breakdowns. Our inability to contain one-on-one was a piece of that. Some of it was in transition. A little bit of confusion, in the volume and pairings they used in pick and rolls, which allowed them to turn the corner, get downhill. But in general, that first quarter, more so first half, I don't think we had the right mindset. We looked a little sluggish. You could argue, long trip, this, that, and the other. And no excuse. We've got to do better with our just our energy, our approach, and they kind of outplayed us in a lot of areas in that first half.
Discombobulating was their defense, just how energetic they were?
Well, that's part of it. But we know that they are very active, very physical. They thrive off turning teams over. Talked about it pregame. They turned us over 19 times for 26 points in the first meeting. We, give up, I think, 20 turnovers for 32 points in this night. So our spacing was poor. I thought we were selfish at times in that first half. And it showed, we really struggled to get things going.
Just how significant was the energy discrepancy that you saw, particularly in the first half? Well,
the proof is in the, in those numbers. A lot of the 50-50 balls, the offensive rebounds, those plays they got nothing to do with scheme. It's just a little bit of want, having awareness, but you got to, dig deep and find it. Find a way to, create your own juice, your own energy, just to get out there and compete at a high level.
Did you enter the game with your preliminary sub-plan intending to play Jordan in the second quarter, or was that a response to what you were seeing out there in terms of lineup and
more
size?
so a response. It's tough to play 10, 11 guys, so you kind of go in thinking it'll go one way, but you have to make adjustments, not only schematically, but who's out there. Who can bring a little bit more energy, a little bit more purpose to what we're doing. And he had some good stretches. I thought Will had a good window. At that point, you're just trying to find a way to claw back in it.
Rudy has been solid from the bench in terms of rebounding and scoring, but today he had no rebound for the first time this season, and then single-digit scoring. Why do you think that happened in terms of his performance and also the Thunder's defense?
I think he got a little sideways. They got the quick 2 fouls, and I think that kind of bothered him, took him out of the game a little bit. But that whole, probably your top 7 were really struggling. So that's why I used Jordan Goodwin, went to Will Barton, just a different look, you know, and he wasn't alone. I thought that our heavy minute guys have looked a little tired, looked a little lacking as far as the energy. So it wasn't just him, but I think in general, finding a group that was going to compete and did a better job across the board in that second half. But at that point, the game's out of reach. You cut it to 14, 12, 14, whatever it is, but you're going to run out of time. You know, our approach to start the game kind of put us, you know, at such a deficit. You know, you never want to, you know, start the first half that way.
Wes, you guys have kind of spoken about making up ground over this stretch where you're helping. How nice will it be now to have a nice stretch at home after a lot on the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get home and hopefully get rested, refocus. You know, we've played well at home at times, so, you know, that's of some comfort, but, you know, it still boils down to our, you know, approach to each game, regardless of who we're playing. You know, we got to come out with the right mindset, whether home or road. And I know this is tough. We've been on the road quite a bit. I think 21 of the last 25 days. So it's been a lot, but, you know, it's the nature of the league, and, you know, it's everyone has to go through it. So hopefully we can put this one behind us, turn the page, and get back and get right.
That's head coach Wes Unseld Jr. at the post-game podium, of course, mentioning the daunting schedule that the Wizards have had over the past 25 days, 20-plus games, nights spent away from home. As we bring in Megan McPeak. Megan, you talked about what we saw at the beginning of the night, what we were expecting. Then we saw a very, very painful first quarter. What was your overall assessment of this game tonight?
I think it started and ended on the defensive end when you really break down this entire game. And I know Glenn and Chris had talked about the fact that, you know, turnovers were plentiful in that first half. And I think that also aided in what we saw from the Thunder and what they were able to do. But in my opinion tonight, it was the energy or lack thereof in that first quarter on the defensive end. Giving up second chance opportunities really was a big thing for the Thunder in that first quarter. So for me, it starts and ends on the defensive end tonight for the Wizards. And obviously, you know, as you just heard from Coach Unseld, when you think of the fact that they've essentially been on the road, really and truly, when you think about it, since what, December 10th, 11th, and a couple games at home, a couple days at home over the Christmas holiday. But throughout the last month, they've basically been on the road, and that's the schedule. It's not just this Wizards team that has been dealing with it, and it can be tough. So you look at what they've been able to do on this road trip. You split it, you call it a day, and here we go. We go back home, and you try to get one against a very strong New Orleans Pelicans team without Zion Williamson. But at the end of the day, you've got to tune things up on the defensive end, because you cannot have a lackluster performance coming out of the gates on the road to close out a road trip. But for me, it starts and ends on the defensive end, like I said.
Indeed, they got to come out strong. That first quarter, I know we've said it a lot on this show, and I appreciate you for mentioning it again, but it really did start there. Outscored 35-17, and it was an uphill climb from then. Megan, don't move anywhere, because we got more show left for Wizards fans at home watching us and joining us, and we appreciate that. On the other side, Daniel Gafford, the landlord, putting in work. He got a spark of energy in the second half. Again, not enough to overcome the deficit created early in the game, but we're going to get into him on the other side, so do not move. Post-game live, back in a moment. The Washington Wizards and NBC Sports Washington teaming up for a day dedicated to celebrating all the levels of basketball in the DMV area on January 21st. The select high school boys and girls games will be broadcast on NBC Sports Washington, Monumental Sports Network, all leading into the Wizards and Magic live action that evening. Basketball day in the DMV. Coverage starts at 10 a.m.
Hey.
Yeah, a little cup of coffee to get your day started with some DMV hoops action.
Love it.
You know something else when we talk about love? How about coaches showing love to players, right?
To do it.
It's not just, you know, you're my coach, you're my player. Daniel Gafford.
Wow.
Yes, shout out to Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball
Coaches
Z.
wearing the T-shirt. If I'm not mistaken, they're doing this with, you know, all the players. If you got a T-shirt or something, you know, you guys want to wear or whatnot, coach is going to put it on and show them some love. I think that helps build chemistry and camaraderie for everybody, especially as we mentioned how much time these guys have spent on the road.
Yes.
You got to show some love. This is like family here. It's what I love about it. But Chrissy, Daniel Gafford, He almost had another double-double tonight. But I think one of the things you and I were commenting as we were watching the game is I love that he's not backing down.
He will never do that.
At all.
He will never do that, okay? Because the rent's due and the landlord is here to work. And that's what he does every night, night in, night out. Daniel Gafford is going to play with his heart and hustle, and he brings it on a consistent basis. And when he does that, it changes the complexion. It changes the momentum. I don't care if it's at the beginning of the game or the end of a quarter. He changes the momentum when he is in there because he's always going hard. He never takes a play off, offensively or defensively. He's always ready to get rugged. He's always ready to battle it out in that restricted area in the paint. So you have to give him credit where credit is due. He needs respect for what he brings to the table for Washington. He's waited his turn. He's earned this moment.
Yeah.
That's why he's had 5 consecutive games with more than 10 points, because he's able to stay consistent because of his level of mental maturity and mental competitive fire. He is tough. And that's what Washington needs from him.
One of the things I need a little bit more from him is I want him to make more of his free throws. And that is not a criticism. He's working on that. And Gaff, I know you can do it. 1 for 5 tonight. He was, again, 1 rebound away from a double-double. He had 15 and 9. But his counterpart in the paint struggled from the court today, shooting him. Talking about KP, Megan, he had 14 and 10. He gave you another double-double on the season in a night where he wasn't exactly getting his shot to fall. What do you make of his performance?
They're human. They might be professional basketball players. That might be their day job. But at the end of the day, these athletes are still human. And a couple games ago, you had asked me, can we expect Kyle Kuzma to give us a triple-double basically on a nightly basis, because he does it with such ease and he makes it look easy. And I look at Porzingis, and he has a tough night when it comes to his efficiency. At the end of the day, these guys are human. They're not going to be perfect and as efficient as we have come to see them on a consistent nightly basis, and that is just reality. That is the way basketball is played. The ball is not always going to go in the hoop every single time for you, but it's the fact that he still stayed with it and played the game. He tried to do something and tried to still have an impact on the basketball game tonight, and unfortunately, it was just not his night. Yes, still comes away with a double-double, but it just was not his night when you think of how efficient he has been throughout this season.
It's just crazy that he can have a not his night and still give you a double-double.
Honestly.
And that's why they call him a unicorn. Megan, we appreciate it. As always, safe travels until we see you on Monday back here in D.C. Christy, you don't get to go nowhere. You get to hang out with me, because we're going to come back on the other side. We're going to get into our FanDuel best bets, and we're going to take a look back on this day in hoops history. We got a lot of stuff left for you. Don't move with us, fans. PostGame Live back in a moment on NBC Sports Washington. Welcome back to Wizards Postgame Live. Let's take a trip back in the day. How about on this date just a couple of years ago? Bradley Beal. All right, January 6, 2021, Bradley Beal. This is back during the COVID season, so you see there are no fans in the background.
Wow, look at that.
Brad put up 60.
Oh, boy.
60 points against the Philadelphia 76ers. Again, tying a franchise record, because we know we've seen another guy whose birthday happens to be today, Mr. Hibachi. Hibachi put up some points against the Lakers, but again, on this day, Bradley Beal with 60 points. So we appreciate that, Panda. Can't wait to see you back in action. As we take a look at our FanDuel best bet from earlier tonight, where we make every moment more. If you'd have said Kyle Kuzma is going to have 6 or more assists, you would have had a plus 220. A $10 bet would have won you $22. And, of course, the unicorn, another double-double.
Well,
they had that one marked to minus 105. Because it's almost a foregone conclusion. Almost. But a $10 bet would have won you $9.52. So with that in mind, Christy, talking about Kyle Kuzma tonight, over his last 4 games, 19 points, 7 boards, 7 assists. We already know that the number 7 is where he ranks on the Eastern Conference front court players in the All-Star voting. 7 is also the number of completion, if you have any.
It is the number of completion.
Keep on going with the number 7. It was a Prince song, too. But anyway, more importantly, how do you gauge his performance tonight? And you can't use the number 7 on a scale of 1 to 10.
I can't use the number 7. 8. But no, I thought Kyle Kuzma was solid, and I thought that he was doing what he does well, which is getting downhill, creating contact. He got himself to the free throw line several times. But I love that he had 7 assists tonight. I love that he was initiating offense. I love that he was setting up his teammates, but he was also able to knock in threes. But this is when he's at his best. When he gets downhill and puts pressure on the second line of defense, that's when he does things for the team. And right there, the second chance opportunities, The second line of defense is where I love him, though. When he can get that, know that that presence is going to be there, and still impact the game in a solid, efficient manner, and pushing tempo.
Yeah.
Washington didn't get a lot of fast break opportunities, but when they did, Kyle Kuzma was the head of the snake in that regard and was able to finish on the other side.
I appreciate that breakdown, and that's exactly what it is, being the head of the snake, attacking, being that point of emphasis right there. And remember, I talked about all-star contention and everything?
You did.
Well, here's Kyle Kuzma in the post-game locker room discussing his all-star candidacy.
I mean, it's a blessing. Just means I'm, popular and obviously product of my play, but I have a lot of fans and people that root for me, and that's an extreme blessing, and I'm very, very appreciative, and I don't take it for granted, so.
Look,
All right.
Kyle is so cool with it. It's so crazy that he's so cool with it, because I know for a fact he wants it. I know for a fact, because as I told you, you're in the room.
I was in the room.
We preseason media day, and I asked him, give me a bold prediction for the year, and Kyle Kuzma says 2 words, all-star.
And that was it.
And that was it. We wrapped the interview. And I said to you, Christy, as we talked about this tonight, he gets it. He wants it. So now here's my question. Let's pull a balancing act.
Okay.
How do you balance, and I'm going to make myself Kyle Kuzma, how do I balance, I want all-star, but at the same time, my team, I want us to win. I don't want to leave the pack. How can I accomplish both of these things?
Well, you can be your best self, right? And I think that's what Kyle Kuzma is able to do, and that's what he's been doing through these 40 games of the first part of this season. I think Kyle Kuzma brings his lunch pail. He understands the basketball IQ of it all. He understands what the team needs from him, but he also understands what the team needs collectively to be doing on both sides of the ball. You can see he's very communicative. He's a great leader for this team. He has an NBA championship when he won it with the LA Lakers a couple of years ago, so he understands what it takes to get that ring. So it's not about what is missing from his game or what has to be sacrificed in order for him to garner individual accolades. It's not about that. It's going to come because of what he's doing on a consistent basis. And that's what I've always said. It's your consistency for me. It's your defensive effort. It's the ability to set your teammates up for plays, which he did with his 7 assists, but also the ability to score in an efficient manner, and that's what he's been able to do as well.
You talk about consistency. He scored 23 points tonight, had led the Wizards with that 23, had 13 in the first half, also leading the Wizards. But with that 23 points, that's 17 of the last 21 games. Well, Kyle Kuzma has scored over 20 points.
Consistency.
That's what consistency is all about. But right now, new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. So download the FanDuel app right now and start making every moment more. Coming up on the other side. What do you say about a little film on that?
I love it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's
Get in there.
Welcome back to PostGame Live. Let's take a look at our bold predictions from early tonight, brought to you by Greenberg and Betterman. Remember, go to gblawyers.com and feel better. I feel good right now.
Feel good.
Why? Because we said the Wizards bench is going to outscore the Thunder tonight, and we did that by 10. Shout out to the crew. Shout out to you at home for believing in us. Remember, this is brought to you by Greenberg and Betterman. Go to gblawyers.com and feel better. That is a nice bright spot on the night, Christy. And as a matter of fact, how about we take that and jump into the film room and look at some more bright spots?
Let's go into the film room and take a look at what Washington can carry forward to Monday's game back at home. Great spacing here on the offensive end. Corey Kispert slips down, and nice cutting off the ball. You have to have that. The defense now is paying attention to the basketball. Great skip pass and look to Monte Morris, who cashes it in from range. And then defensively, look at Jordan Goodwin. Goody down there doing some good things and pushing tempo, running the lanes. Monte Morris gets the kick out 3, misses it, but you've got to attack the offensive boards like a 50-50 opportunity. It's not just when the ball is on the floor, it's when shots are taken. Kyle Kuzma finishes up inside. And look, defensively for OKC, they're going to have 3 people right there in the paint, so 2-guard front for Washington. And what you want to do against the zone that they presented tonight is attack the paint. Ooh, look at the spin cycle right there. DeLon, do it to him, kissing it off the glass for a deuce. tough offense for Washington when they had great spacing. They came up big when they had to in moments like that. And those are the opportunities that Wes Unseld Jr. was talking about in terms of having great spacing on a consistent basis in the quarter court. Great things happen when you attack the offensive glass, but also when you attack because of your spacing, you have gaps to get into and finish in the lane.
And to continue attacking when the three ball is not falling, which it was a struggle for the Wizards tonight. So speaking of the players, we've got Kristaps Porzingis right now in the postgame locker room. I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
But I did feel like I wanted to take some responsibility that Gaff and myself, we didn't set the tone defensively from the beginning. And it was kind of, you know, it was what it was on both ends, but especially defensively, we just didn't set the tone. And so that was the thing that was on my mind and, you know, wanted to say. So tough game. Obviously, they play aggressive, they play fast, and they were just picking us apart and making shots, and things were going for them, and we were playing uphill from the beginning of the game. So tough one.
How much did their defense knock you guys off? Obviously, you're saying you didn't set the tone, but they're all energy all the time.
Yeah, they did, yeah. They were running around, they were switching. They were just more aggressive, more energetic than us, and they play that way. Obviously, we're not that type of team like they do, with all the young guys running around. But they're capable of. I don't know. The other night they scored on 150 on Boston, right? Tonight again they had a big offensive game. They're capable of doing that, so it's no surprise. It's not like this happened out of nowhere. It's you know they're building something. They're building something interesting, in my opinion. They are building like a fun, hard to guard way of playing, you know, in my opinion, and yeah, I like what they're doing.
If you were taking responsibility and you and Gaff didn't set the tone, why do you feel like you guys just didn't play with that energy from the start tonight? Do you have a reason, or just didn't happen?
Some games you start the game a little bit slow, and then you kind of settle into the game, and you know what's the rhythm. And it didn't happen tonight like that with these guys. They came out like that, and we came kind of okay. Last game on the road, you know, we'll be heading home after this, and cannot come out with that kind of mindset, you know, against a young, hungry team like that. And we got our ass kicked today.
What does it mean when you get home for most of the month of January?
That will be big. I think you guys have been with us on the road, right, most of the time. So I think, yeah, it'll be good to get home, have a little home stretch, eat some consistent food, and just enjoy playing in front of our fans and have that energy on our side.
The ever-transparent and always professional Kristaps Porzingis there in the post-game locker room, saying some things that I absolutely loved hearing. We're going to talk about that on the other side and get you set for the Monday matchup that he talked about in D.C. We're talking Pelicans on the other side of the post-game.
NBC Sports Washington. Score! Your home of the Capitals.
And what if I need help picking a plane?
State Farm's here to help.
What up, Bo?
Okay, guys.
What if he's not actually 7'4"?
We good? Yeah, we good. Good work today, boys. Oh, it's a living.
At State Farm, we're there for your what-ifs. Get a quote today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
At AMCO, we've been fixing cars for almost 60 years. And over that time, a lot sure has changed. Cars have gotten more complex than ever. But the technicians at AMCO have the expertise to fix anything.
The problem's with your transmission valve body and torque converter. We do this all the time.
So if your check engine light is on, let us take a look. Because we know cars inside and out. AA MCO.
Even after 40 years serving our area, people still ask, what is a five-star technician? Well, it's simple. They're the best.
When you're talking heating and air conditioning, they're professionally trained and the most knowledgeable in the business. For your plumbing or electrical needs, they can do it all. For pest control and home performance, trust me, you want a five-star technician at your home. For more than 40 years, Crop Metcalf, home of the five-star technician.
Crop Metcalf is the one with 5 stars.
Right now, there is an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield. It's a war for information, for intelligence, for transformation, for certainty. This invisible war has extremely visible consequences. It impacts our friends, our families, and our way of life. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done. Because the alternative is unimaginable.
We've all spent more time with family lately. It can feel like old times, but your mind is also on the future. We work with clients to help them grow and protect their money with wealth management, trust services, and insurance, so they can enjoy today, tomorrow, and provide for future generations with confidence. We believe real banking is a conversation. Let's talk about your dreams. Sandy Spring Bank.
Hey, Wizards fans, on Monday, that means you get to take the weekend off. Come back here on Monday, 6:30 p.m. We want you right here on NBC Sports Washington. The Wizards-Pelicans, going to be a matchup back in D.C. Glad to be home from the road. With that in mind, Christy Winter-Scott, I'm looking at the New Orleans Pelicans. They're 24-15 on the season. Zion, I'm not going to be available for this game, but how do the Wizards get back into the win side?
Well, they've got to do a better job of coming out of the gates with the intentionality on the defensive side. You heard Kristaps Porzingis talking about their energy and effort on the defensive end wasn't up to par coming out of the gates. Has to be in place at the start of the game on Monday. Willie Green just got Western Conference Coach of the Year at the beginning of this week, so they are looking to continue their good ways on the road here in D.C., and D.C. doesn't want to have that.
No, not at all. And I want us to get back into that rhythm that Porzingis was talking about.
Yes.
Come home, get back in your bed, get back into your nutrition schedule, and relax and woo-saw and reset. And when New Orleans steps foot on that court in Capital One Arena, we do what we do at home. We protect the house.
Right.
Final score from OKC, 127-110. On behalf of our great crew and staff here at NBC Sports Washington, for Christy Winter-Scott, I'm Wes Hall. You all have a